Have you wondered about living elsewhere after you retire? Well, we have, almost daily. As you know, it's not an overnight decision. Hi, this is Gil.
And Gene.
Of Retire There, a podcast about places to consider living in after you retire. We started this show for selfish reasons. We planned on visiting cities earlier this year, spending some quality time not as tourists, but pretending to actually live there, to get a real sense and taste of the place. We made one trip in February, which was great, and we were planning for the next trip.
Then COVID hit.
Yeah. A little background about us. I was born in Brazil, South America, from an Asian family, and grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a college attorney who loves her job working with students, faculty, and staff.
I was born and raised in Long Island, New York. And I'm a law librarian working in a court who also loves his job. We've lived in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, New York for many years and have been thinking about our future home.
So we will be speaking to folks from around the country who have moved to venues of their dreams and more. And we will share their intimate secrets.
What?
Just kidding. But we'll offer information you may not find anywhere else. So stay tuned. Hi there. In today's episode, we will be speaking to Sean and Elsie, who made Santa Fe, New Mexico, their dream home. Before we start, here's a brief background of this lovely couple.
Sean grew up in Massachusetts, outside of Boston. He attended Notre Dame University and Northwestern Medical School in Chicago. He did his internship in New Orleans. He was drafted into the Army Medical Corps, did his residency at Walter Reed Army Hospital in Washington, D.C. He was stationed in Kentucky, where he was chief of a psychiatric hospital. He then moved to complete his residency at the University of Washington. Sean practiced general and child psychiatry in Bremerton, Washington, for almost 40 years. It's funny, every time I meet a psychiatrist, I get nervous. I know they're analyzing me. They're thinking, which drugs should I prescribe for this guy? Well, on to Elsie.
I know what type of drugs you need, but that's another episode. Okay. Elsie was raised in Long Island and moved to the South as a teenager. Her dad was in the military. She attended University of North Carolina at Wilmington and received a master's in rehabilitation of the mentally ill from Seattle University. I see where this is headed. These lovebirds met at work. You know, we have a policy against that. Okay. And they married. Elsie worked with Sean in private practice and then pursued a career as a florist with an atelier. Oh my God, how cool is that? We have to get that in, Elsie. Just remember that. If I forget, you have to, we want to hear about that. Okay. As a segue to retirement, they did what we now know as a gap year. They moved to Paris for a year. Can this be any cooler? Sean and Elsie, welcome to our program. Please share your journey to Santa Fe with our listeners. And thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for inviting us to the podcast. I wish I could say it was a very long, thought-out process, but unfortunately, we had only visited Santa Fe a couple of times. We more knew where we didn't want to live as opposed to where we wanted to live. So Santa Fe kind of struck us. Like I said, we were only here a couple of times on some medical meetings for Sean. But what we decided to do was move here for 6 months. We had all our personal items in storage and see how we liked it, see if we could live here. So after renting a furnished house for 6 months, we decided, well, we could hang our hats here. And we weren't afraid to make a mistake. If it didn't work, we'd move on to some other place. And so after about 6 months, we bought a house here, and that's been 10 years ago now. And we haven't regretted it. We've been enjoying it. We've met a lot of friends, and it's suited us.
What other places did you mentioned that you didn't include in your consideration?
Well, I mean, we lived 40 years in Washington State, and although we loved Washington State, we felt that it had outgrown us. It was no longer the place that we'd moved to 40 years prior. The only two other venues that we thought of maybe moving to, one was Portland, Oregon, and then the other one was Carmel, California.
But
we figured
wow.
One of my favorite places.
Carmel.
I know. Well, we love visiting there, but we decided it was not eclectic enough for us. We like a little more variety of people and things like that. And Portland, we figured at that time, the housing was pretty high and very popular place to be. Although we liked the vibe of Portland, we realized we probably would be living in maybe a condo or a smallish house, more of a city environment. So we thought Santa Fe was more eclectic. Our motto is the city different. And, I have a lot of friends that are like 30 and 40 years younger than me. Like everybody's accepting. We're a very gay friendly town. It's just, we just thought it was more us.
Okay. So can you tell us what the main factors were in your thought process in relocating?
Well, we had like a little wish list. We wanted to where we could be maybe indoor, outdoor living. We felt like it had a small town feel, but we still had culture here. There's a world-class opera. We have a mix of cultures. There's, of course, the big Hispanic community, and of course, the Native American cultures here as well. And it wasn't too big. It's a walkable city where we live, and there's good restaurants, and there's a nice art scene, and the city was very welcoming to us. So that's a few things that attracted us, and it was good food too, nice restaurants. And I looked up to see before I moved here, could I buy prosciutto? That was my little benchmark. I thought, okay, I could live here. So
Yeah.
We have
a very nice farmers market here too in the summertime.
Yeah, I love those.
Oh, I heard about that. It's supposed to be really good. Yeah,
it's very good.
I heard you can get a good breakfast there. Have you had breakfast there?
Well, we're not really breakfast eaters. We're kind of just a coffee and something small, and then we have kind of a midday meal, I guess. So, I mean, I like breakfast, but I like it for dinner.
One thing unique about the farmers market here is in the fall they roast the chilies, and the whole place smells like chilies. It's really
roasted chilies.
Chilies, very remarkable.
Yeah, I hear the signature dish in that city is green chili cheeseburgers.
Oh, yeah. We put green chili in everything. I make green chili cheese soufflés. I do the cheeseburgers, anything with eggs, whatever you can add green chili to, you do. And I'm not saying green chili is hot. It can be hot, but it has just that taste. You can get anywhere from mild to hot. We prefer like mild to medium. We like the taste, but we don't want to scorch our mouths. So.
And burn your palate.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But it was one of our, we go down there. There's a gentleman that still hand roasts them. A lot of them have motorized roasters, but he does it by hand. So he looks at it, and when they're just done for the peels to come off, he takes them off. So that's where I usually get mine. And I freeze a bunch for the winter time. So.
Oh, that's smart.
They must have great Mexican food there. Do they call it New Mex-Mex, like Tex-Mex?
No, we call it New Mexican food. Tex-Mex is a whole nother variety of food. I wouldn't really know how to describe it, but it's, green chili heavy and, burritos, that sort of thing. It's different than Mexican food, but it's New Mexican food. So.
Do you have a favorite burrito spot?
Well, there's a lot of trucks, food trucks, but not particularly. I don't know. Do you, Sean?
No, I don't go.
I think everybody has their favorite one. So,
There's there's a tamale factory here that's particularly nice.
Yeah, tamales.
Yeah,
La Posa, and then there's one down in Albuquerque called El Modelo, which is very good. Which is the big thing for Christmas time is the tamales. So we're still learning a little bit about that type of cuisine, but it's really nice. We've enjoyed it. So.
Oh, let me interject here. What about are there any Asian markets? That's like on my criteria list.
Well, we used to have a satellite one from a place in Albuquerque called Tallinn. So you'd have to go down to Albuquerque to have the big Asian market where they have fresh vegetables, the Asian vegetables and the slices of meat that, the thinly sliced ribeyes or whatever. But so that's about 50 miles away. And I will say that it's not a trafficy drive. We're being from the Northwest, there was a lot of traffic, and, we zip down there in less than an hour and do a few things. We don't go there a lot, but there's a few things. So that is, you could go down there. There's an Asian market there.
There's also a Costco there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Costco. Okay.
Albuquerque, yeah. And of course,
You
there's
guys
the
are members
internet.
of Costco?
If there's something that I just absolutely have to have and I can't find, I just order it online. So.
I know. Same here.
And I know Gil will want to know this, and I ask this on every show. And this is a factor in determining where she'll move. Is there a Trader Joe's near you?
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah. We have Trader Joe's, Whole Foods. We have a place called Market Street, which is sort of like an upgraded Albertsons. It's a Kroger thing, but it's an upgraded one, and they just kind of revamped about a year or so ago, and it's very nice. You won't have trouble finding food here, that's for sure.
Yeah. Can't live without my Trader Joe's.
No.
So what about healthcare? Can you talk a bit about that? I'm sure that was a factor.
Sean and I don't have any underlying health problems, so it wasn't like a major concern. But since Sean is a physician, he kind of runs interference if there's a problem,
Lucky you.
And we haven't had a problem here. But our thought was if we needed something really major, there's always Denver or Phoenix if we had to. But there's, a medical school down in Albuquerque, and we have 2 hospitals here. So we didn't think that was a factor. Like, I mean, if you're a person that maybe has ongoing health problems and needs a lot of specialized care or something,
right,
that might be an issue, but it wasn't for us.
Okay.
But I was reading that Christus St. Vincent is a great hospital. Do you know about that?
Well, yes, they recently got I don't know the exact terminology, but they're linked with the Mayo Clinic now, where they have can refer people or consult with them. A lot of things can be done by video now, because there's obviously robotic surgery that people do from hundreds of miles away, but they got that accreditation within the year, I'm thinking. So that was kind of a little star for them, to get that. And there's also Presbyterian Hospital. That's another kind of a branch.
Well covered.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Christopher St. Vincent's has a psychiatric unit too, in case you're interested.
In case Gene needs one.
Why do you say Gene?
You opened that door.
Yeah, I was going to say you opened the door. Yes, okay. All right.
We wanted to know that before we went out to visit.
Right.
All right. On that note, was weather a factor in selecting Santa Fe?
Well, yes, it was. We wanted to have that outdoor living, and we have many sunny days per year. Although in the wintertime, it could be very sunny, but it could be still cold. So, if you're in the house, it looks nice and cozy. But if you go out, it's cold. But we didn't think, we like to have the change of seasons. It's a time for the earth to quiet down. It's time for us to quiet down. And, we do get some snowfall, although we're kind of in a drought situation right now. But it was a factor. We didn't want a lot of rain. We wanted some rain.
Of course, it's at 7,200 feet.
Yeah.
And there's a ski bowl about 5 miles out of town. It's pretty usable from the point of view of skiing for maybe through the end of November to March. So there are distinct seasons with outdoor activities, including skiing and in the wintertime, and of course golf and fishing in the summertime.
Yeah, hiking. Yeah, we are. We say we live at altitude. That's a saying around here. So that was a little bit of adjustment for us to begin with, because we both have just lived at sea level our entire lives, and but we don't have trouble with it now. Some people have trouble with it. They just, for whatever reason, but we're okay. We like it now. So.
Yeah. So would you say that the majority of the year you just have a light jacket and pretty walkable areas that you don't have to have a heavy coat?
No, I'm still going out without a jacket. So what is it, the end of October? And we haven't had our fireplace on yet. We use that a lot for the wintertime. We do get down to we can get below freezing, but it's usually overnight. But it's like any place. If you like the place, you deal with it, So
yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point.
Yeah. So
from the point of view of a garden, it's considered the zone 5 from the point of view of plants and that thing. So it does get down to close to zero occasionally in the wintertime. So you can't have tender plants outside.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get frostbite.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
point. We're zone 5 for agriculture.
Right. Yeah, we're zone
Well, and
7,
I would say,
17,
we're at the
actually.
northern part of the state too. Southern part is totally different, but we won't go into that. Okay, just it's well,
So you brought up plants, which is one of my obsessions. Do you have a lot of plants outside that you have to bring in soon, or?
we tried to do that originally, but we don't. I just replace them. You know, and we have we have a couple of little. We have a garden in the back, and I consider it kind of a texture garden as opposed to a lot of flowers. But we plant things, and if they don't work out, they don't work out. But we've had pretty good luck, and we had some kind of summer flowers, and now I replaced them with some mums for the fall season in different pots. So we haven't had a problem. No, we like to garden. We like to be
Yeah.
outside, and
Yeah.
we created a nice little yard. So.
Yeah.
Do a lot of people have grass in the yards?
No, it's considered, not correct because you're wasting water, watering the grounds.
Sure.
There are a few way older homes that have their own wells, and they're the ones that tend to have a little bit more grass because we're on city water, and we're not totally xeriscape landscaping, but yeah, grass is frowned upon. So
Sure, that's understandable.
Is Santa Fe a green city? Would you say?
Yeah, I think that just the people try to do that. We try to recycle as much as we can, and yeah, I would say it was a green city. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, especially with climate change. I mean, we spend so much time trying to figure out how best to recycle everything, and we're a family of 3, and we can generate an entire, 13-gallon bag in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's
Mm-hmm.
a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it's similar by you.
Yeah, and I will say, some of my younger friends that are in their 40s, they do much better than I do. They don't use like one-use plastics, or even saran wrap or anything like that. They don't do that stuff, so they're much more conscious. And I guess I should do that. It's not as good as I can because it's a matter of convenience or whatever. And then
No,
you do have some stuff you do have to buy comes in a big plastic container.
yeah,
Some of the lettuces and stuff, and
right,
we do the best we can, and we do
yeah.
recycle. So
No, it's a big learning curve for many
yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of home, did you guys are you in a house? Because I think that you mentioned earlier, are you in a townhouse, a condo?
No, we have a freestanding home, Santa Fe style home. Adobe is the structure of choice here, and since we live in the historic district, there are limitations on what can be built here. And so ours is adobe, or I call it faux adobe because it's not the traditional. We're not made out of bricks. It's a stick frame house, but it's adobe on the outside. And then we have portals, which are essentially covered porches, and we have kiva fireplaces, and there's a lot of curves to the interior structures of the houses. Kind of smooth, and yeah. So it's about 2,200 square foot home that we live in.
Oh,
But
wow.
we have a little patio on the outside, and then we have a big portal, and then I call it the lower garden
Yes. Oh, oui,
in the
oui.
back. So anyway,
That's right. The florist in you.
yeah.
Oh, and I know our listeners can't see this, but that looks like a sky roof over your head, right?
Oh
Or
yeah. Skylights, yes.
skylight.
Yeah,
That's it.
skylights, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's nice. Yeah,
that's a
natural
kind of
light.
that's a common feature too, skylights. And
Mhm.
we have, in our other, not this room, but we have vigas and latias. So they're like high ceilings with big wooden logs. So
Wow,
it's uniquely,
that sounds gorgeous.
actually, this is probably one of the few places in the United States that has our type of architecture. In
Okay.
New Mexico in general, it's different
Right.
than from East Coast or whatever. So it's
Okay.
Adobe
Right.
style.
Yeah, it's very unique. And
Yeah.
are you on a single level? Do you have a basement?
No, it's a single level. Basements are very rare here. Only a very older home will have a basement. But that was one of our things. We wanted just single level when we bought a house.
Right. That's what I'm looking for as well. Just
Yeah.
easier to get
One
around.
caveat about architecture is really controlled quite tightly by the Historical Society. And so some people become disenchanted when they want to put in a particular structure that doesn't fit into the historical background, they put the kibosh on it. It becomes a problem for some people who want to move here.
Yeah.
They don't have the same freedom in terms of building what they want.
Yeah, it made like you couldn't build a modern house down where we live. There's some outlying areas where you could do that, but
Yeah, but it sounds like you have, more than everything you need in the style and design. And I mean, I like clean spaces. So
Yes.
it sounds like you have plenty of square footage. I mean, that's one big house.
Yeah. And well, here's a tip for retired people. If you're moving, do some heavy duty decluttering. I mean, I never thought I had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that.
But it was like, if you have a spot and you put something there and you're not really using it, you kind of leave it there if it doesn't bother you. But
Right.
then when we're moving out our house that we've been in for almost 30 years in Washington, we were pretty brutal. Number one, we didn't even know where we're going to go. So we weeded down. It doesn't take one pass through. You do it several times. And then we finally got here. I still was probably weeding out stuff for the next couple of years. So I feel like now we're in a spot where we only have stuff that we need or that we like. So I'm happy about that.
So you don't have like a storage bin area?
Well, we have a little space in the garage, and then we have some closets, but we don't store a lot of stuff anymore.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, we think that we should start packing
There's
now.
a saying in Sweden, they do at 65 years old, they start doing death cleaning, where they start getting rid of stuff that
my
they don't want, and or they think their kids don't want. Just like let's get rid of it. So, and there's a lot of consignment stores here in Santa Fe too.
Oh, that's neat.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I find that when we give away a ton of bags, we wind up staying in that store, the Goodwill, and then I'm shopping. So what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. As long as you haven't bought something that you donated the previous week, I guess you're okay.
Yeah. A girlfriend and I just went shopping last week, and she looked at this little ceramic Asian house, and she wanted to put it in the backyard. And she said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "Oh, well, it's really cute. I saw that as well. But if we're going to start packing or moving in 10 years, whatever, where are we going to put this?" And she put it back down, and I felt so bad.
Well, that's okay. Sometimes you need a reality check. She's asking you, "What do you think?" Well, do you really want that? So,
Yeah, exactly. So, when you moved, and I'm sure things are different now. Are you near your relatives? Are you guys far from family? Is that a factor?
well, it's not a factor. Most of our adult lives, we haven't lived close to relatives for maybe about 5 years. My older sister lived about a mile from me in Washington, but then they moved to the other side of the state. And then my brother's in New York, and then I have two sisters in North Carolina. And it's not like you're less than a plane ride away if you need to go see somebody. So it wasn't a factor for us.
And especially now during.
I don't
Sorry?
have much contact with my family. Most of my relatives have passed away. We don't have any real function to visit anybody.
And I would say that's a factor too. If you're 10 years from a retirement, you're going to change in 10 years. And maybe your son's going to be married and move someplace else. And so it gets to be not as an important factor. I'm going to say that. That's talking for us though. So.
Yeah, no, I think we're in the same camp. I mean, I'm from a very large family, and Gene's he's got 3 siblings. I have 6, but we're all on the East Coast at this point. All right, so what were their competing interests in the selection? That was the cost of living. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, it's not a cheap town, but I mean, it's not that expensive either. It wasn't really a factor because we kind of live within our means. Wherever we are, we don't spend too much. It wasn't. There's a lot of wealthy people in Santa Fe, and there's a lot of part-time people in Santa Fe. But it's like you get your niche, where you are in the strata of the society where you live. So it didn't. But that wasn't a big decision for us. It was more like open, clean air, less traffic, walkability, more kind of personal things like that, I guess.
Well, one caveat is that the tax structure in the state is rather draconian. They tax every damn thing you can own, including your Social Security.
Yeah, we're one of 8 states that they do tax
Oh, wow.
Social Security here. So, and they're always trying to change it, but it hasn't gotten changed yet. But
And they have got a high sort of sales tax as well as state income tax. So that could put off a number of people, I think. It didn't bother me too much because we just factored it into what we had to live on.
Right. What about other taxes we've heard about from other areas, like service tax?
I feel like our property taxes are high here, but they're in other locations. They might fund things in a different way. But I think our property taxes are high here.
Yeah, and we just learned that
in Virginia, there's a tax on cars.
So if you have a fancier vehicle, you might get charged more. Is there?
No. We had. That's funny that you mentioned that, because when we got a car, it's been several years ago now. I thought, oh my God, we're going to have to pay a big tax to license this in New Mexico, because we bought it in Colorado. And we came down here and it was like less than $100. I thought, oh, okay, that's not so bad.
Wow.
So I thought we were going to be taxed on the value of the car or something, but it wasn't. Just the personal income tax, and it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Well, the state is very nice to veterans, and that might be a factor in some people trying to decide. You get all kinds of breaks if you're a veteran.
Yeah, Sean, we got a tax break because he's a veteran on the property taxes. So,
that's great.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of nice.
I get a fishing license for $1 because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
You fish?
Yes, he fly fishes. Yeah, we're a big fly fishing state too, northern area. So,
is that a long drive away?
No, it's about 45 minutes.
Okay.
It's the Pecos River drainage. There's a lot of trout, both rainbows and brown trout.
Oh, so you must catch a lot, right? And then you get home, and then you guys
I throw them back in again.
Catch and release.
Yes. Good.
Yeah. So. He's caught the same fish 5 times. Like, hey, no, I'm just joking. But as a fish,
you don't know.
As a fish is caught and released, they do get a little wily.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that doesn't look so real to me, that fly.
Do you go with Sean, Elsie?
No. I have a couple of times, but I'm just kind of sitting on the bank, and he goes himself, or he'll have a friend go with him, and sometimes they hire a guide. So there's a lot of other possibilities.
Yeah, you also have to start really early, right? In the morning, like 4 or 3.
No, not really. Yeah,
not fly fishing.
Not fly fishing.
You gotta get the sun up in the sky to wait for the trout wake up.
Oh, okay. See, that's how much I know about fishing, which I want to do, by the way. But
okay.
But speaking of sports, there are no professional sports teams in New Mexico. Does that bother you at all?
No. If you're in New Mexico, your team is either the Denver Broncos or the Dallas Cowboys. And a lot of people go up to Denver. It's about a 4.5, 5 hour drive, and go up there for the weekend for a game. So, no, I mean, no, we're more like watch it on TV if we want to. So, yeah.
Yeah, the minor league baseball team in Albuquerque, the Isotopes.
Which I love that name, the Isotopes.
Yeah, that's a great name.
So cool.
Their logo is like a little nuclear fission thing.
Yeah.
But I think the Isotopes, I think, are a farm club for the Denver Rockies, their baseball team.
Yeah, that's impressive. I wouldn't have known that.
And speaking of Isotopes, do you ever go to Roswell?
We've been through it, but I mean, you're probably thinking about Los Alamos more, or I mean, for the nuclear
the lab.
That's where the
National Laboratory.
Oppenheimer was. That's where Oppenheimer was headquartered up there. We get around. We go sightseeing and travel around the southern part of the state, and we also have a lot of since you mentioned Los Alamos, nearby is Bandelier National Monument, which is cliff dwelling. Pretty nice to see. You can climb up some ladders and look inside the caves and everything. Yeah, there's a lot of things to do here, different than other parts of the country. And I'll tell you, Europeans love Santa Fe. I mean, the Southwest is so unique considering Europe and Asia. So they really like the Southwest. So there's a lot of international tourists that come here on a usual, summer, not this year, but a usual summer. So
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
How far are you from an international airport?
Well, Albuquerque is an international airport, but it mainly goes down to Mexico. If you want to go international, usually from Albuquerque, you'd either go to, depend which direction you're going, you go to LA, Denver, or Chicago, or Atlanta. But there is a direct flight from Albuquerque to New York. And that wasn't an issue for us. We travel as much as we want to travel and wherever we want to travel. So
Right. Okay, good to know.
And you fly out of Albuquerque usually?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we go out of Albuquerque. There's a place in an airport in Santa Fe, but there's not a lot of flights. They're trying to increase it, but since there's a few flights, on the occasion your flight is canceled, you're out of luck. At least down in Albuquerque, they'll stick you on another one.
What do you think of the people in Santa Fe?
It's a very open community. We've met a lot of people here, friendly people. We can go to a restaurant, say, and a lot of times you like to go to happy hour, so you're kind of in a bar situation, but people just start talking. You'll talk to people that you haven't never met before. They could be from Santa Fe or could be from someplace else. But we've met a lot of nice people here, and there's a lot of very interesting people in this town that come here either to live permanently or they just have a part-time home here. So no, and they're very intelligent people too. There's we haven't had any problem with, we've enjoyed the town a lot. So, and I feel that they kind of accept you where you are. They don't need to know your history or whatever. You kind of just meet and wherever you are at in your life, which I kind of like that. So.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely. Classically, the population is divided three ways. There's the Native Americans, the Hispanic, and what they call the Anglos. But they tend to get along pretty well with one another. There's not much in the way of friction from the different population groups.
Well, we did have a little incident, recently on the Indigenous Peoples Day. They ripped down the obelisk in the plaza, which has been controversial for years. So that was kind of, and it probably should have been changed a long time ago, but they just, it was kind of reached a tipping point. But we're pretty much a peaceful city. There's protests are usually more genteel or something, just signs or people walking around. It's nothing.
It's also the capital of the state, so the legislature meets here every year, and of course that draws different political
interests
groups, whatever. So
wanting to change things.
There's an animated situation with political intrigues and whatnot. It's kind of interesting, but it doesn't really affect us directly very much.
Sure, and it's been a very interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, we've had our share of protests. Can you tell us what a typical day looks like? You guys involved in hobbies, or just give us a typical day?
Do you volunteer?
I'll give us a typical pre-COVID day. How's that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We like to, do exercise. So there was exercise studio that I would go to. And it was a resistance band training, which I enjoyed a lot. And I enjoy the people that I exercise with. They're mainly women. And then Sean likes to swim. So we joined kind of a health club that he's a member of, where they have like a weight room and a pool and hot tubs. We would do that. And then I do some volunteer work once or twice a week. And then, if there's a museum opening or gallery opening, a new, art exhibit, we might go to that, go to lunch, or enjoy the outside. Now that COVID's here, I just do walking. I walk about 4 miles a day.
Nice.
Just to kind of clear my head and get outside, enjoy the outside. We still stream our classical music station from Seattle.
Oh,
It's funny because I was talking to a fellow and he goes, yeah, we still stream our station from Boston. So you can have your music wherever you go. So
yeah.
we
Yeah.
enjoy the outside. And
Well, prior to the advent of the pandemic, I worked intermittently in locum tenens positions in different hospitals around the state. And I'm not doing that now. I probably won't resume it either after the thing. I'm getting kind of fed up with working, to tell you the truth.
it would be from somewhere between 1 to 6 weeks, depending upon the gig,
I
So
worked at the state hospital for 5 years here
yeah.
in Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Mhm.
And
He had a hard time giving up his professional persona, I guess, for a while, but
yeah,
I think he's come to terms with it now.
Well, Sean, you still can have your little private practice in the other 1,000 square feet of the house.
yeah. Well, theoretically I could, but the malpractice exposure was such that I wouldn't make any money.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. It would be totally pro bono.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about museums. I read about one that I'm a little confused about. I think it's the Meow.
Meow Wolf. Well,
What is that?
okay, Meow Wolf. It's hard to explain. It's kind of interactive art. You go and, gosh, how can you explain it? Well, you go in there and there'll be a refrigerator. So you open the refrigerator and there's actually a slide that you go down. And then when you come out, you're like in another room.
Whoa.
Or to access another room, you have to crawl through a fireplace.
Oh, my
So
God.
nothing is what it seems to be.
Hmm.
And they have a lot of tactile things. Of course, it's closed down now because there's so many tactile things.
Yeah.
But it's like an interactive art experience. That's the best way I can describe it. It's kind of fascinating. I've taken some people from out of town there, but that's about as best I can say.
It was established by the fellow that wrote something.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, he lives here.
He lives here. See,
Oh, wow.
so he does stuff in the community. So we have people that we have big name people that live here.
Yeah.
A lot of
No,
movie
Yeah.
actors have places here.
Yeah. A lot of movie stars have some places here.
Okay, let's see.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You guys covered a lot.
Yeah, you were
Okay.
great.
I actually, now is a good time. Elsie, I'd love to hear about your days of being a florist, working at an atelier. And
Yeah,
I
well,
don't even know
that's
if
kind of a
anyone knows that.
fancy name for I was working out of my garage. Well, Sean closed his private practice, and then he worked for about 8 years for an HMO, and that was kind of a segue to retirement. We closed the private practice, so we didn't have the burden of all the overhead and everything. So since I was his office manager, administrator, whatever you want to say, so that was my time to, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
And I always had an interest in, gardening and floral stuff. So I took a small course in floral design. Floral work can be very difficult because it's actually like gardening inside.
Mhm.
The flowers you get have to be prepped and trimmed, and you have to do it. And so there's a lot of work. It's like, buying your vegetables from the store. They got to be peeled and washed and cut
Yeah.
up. So you
Mhm.
can extrapolate that to floral work. So then so after I did that, I got a job at a floral place that was in the Four Seasons Hotel in Seattle to
Nice.
kind of learn more about flowers. And then when I stopped doing that, I started having my own business. And then I would do like floral designs for restaurants or parties, or I would have like some clients I had where I would have an arrangement once a month, for them
Right.
and take it to their house. And, that is one aspect that I do miss, not having my floral work. I sort of tried it here, but being at 7,000 feet, flowers react differently,
Oh.
because things evaporate faster than they can possibly drink up the water.
Oh, that's so
If
interesting.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of sorry about that. Like I said, I gave it a try, but it didn't work out for me. It's just totally different. I mean, some beautiful arrangement that you'd see in Seattle wouldn't look right here, just because of
Sure.
the desert atmosphere or whatever. It's like tropicals or something. They have their
Yeah.
place in Hawaii, but then they don't look so good in a different
Yeah.
situation. But
I think it's amazing, though. You took a course and then you started having clients.
I mean, I had to go out and get them. I went.
Yeah,
I
but
thought,
still,
well,
you
you're
got
going to do
them.
something or not. So there was one restaurant, and it was around Mother's Day or Easter. I forget which one I did first. I think it was Easter, and then I did Mother's Day. So I did them a promo. I said, Cymbidium orchids and a little square thing with it was all pretty. And so I took 3 there, and I said, are you interested in doing this for Mother's Day or for Easter? And they said, oh, yeah, we are. So that's how I started. And then they opened another restaurant down in Tacoma, and I would do their flowers down there. So it
Yeah.
was fun.
I
I
mean,
enjoyed it. It was my creative side. I really enjoyed it a lot. So
yeah, I mean, it's so different from what you did before. So that to me, I love. I think
yeah.
that's great.
Well,
I think it's beautiful.
I always have my little creative side, something going.
Yeah.
Trying
How
to.
about things like pottery? I mean, I'm sure there's tons of pottery
Yeah.
class.
Well, and actually, we do this for people that want to maybe further a hobby or something. We have Santa Fe Community College, and they have like photography, golfing, spiritual things. So it's kind of nice, they have a lot of courses if you want to learn how to do something. I did take a high altitude baking course there because when I first got here, I was kind of suffering, because things react different at 7,000 feet. So there's a lot of courses like that, but pottery, of course, we have the Native American pottery, and that's a
That's what
whole different ball game. But
Mhm.
then, there's a lot of artists here, that do their specialty work. And yeah, it's a very eclectic community. That's about all I can say. Mhm.
It's a major attraction
Yeah.
if you're interested
Hmm.
in that, which I am. But so,
Hmm.
okay. Is there anything that we missed that you'd like to add? What about something that outsiders wouldn't know or tourists wouldn't know? Anything kind of stands out like a secret?
Well, I could suggest that Taos isn't very far from here, about 25 miles. And that's a very interesting community, and there's certainly easy access to get there. They have a lot of very interesting cultural and artistic things up in Taos that sort of complement Santa Fe in a way, but in another way, they're quite different.
Hmm. Yeah, I was to say Santa Fe and Taos are different. You have to kind of live for a little bit to get the what it is. I guess
Yeah.
my parting thing would be is if a person is looking to retire in a place and they're not sure, pack up, put all your stuff in storage and rent there for 6 months and see how you like it. You can't lose anything. You just see if you can settle in, and if it doesn't work out, if you have a plan B, try that. That's what I would say.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And I agree. And we have to be flexible in our thinking in that way.
Yeah. And
You
don't
know?
be afraid to make mistakes. That's what we
Right.
said. If it doesn't work out, we'll move. It's not like it was a, life or death decision. So
Right, right. Oh, I have one final question. When you guys went to Paris for a year, were there any thoughts while you were there that you would stay there longer?
well, there's issues with the visas and things like that. So we had a visa for a year, and it would be a lot to renew it. And this goes for any place in what they call the Schengen countries in Europe. At the time, there was 14. I think there's more now because we were thinking, oh well, you could go to France and then go to Germany for a while and then come back. But no, that's a Schengen country, excuse me. So you can't do that. We did not relish coming back to the United States. We could have definitely been longer there. Of course, there were, being on our own, not backed up by a company. Like some people go to live in Europe and they're working for a company or something, or the government. There's health things. If we got sick, we did have the American hospital in Paris, but we're obviously paying out of pocket for that. And we didn't have any dental problems, but I thought, God, please don't let me have a dental problem. But it was, we love the lifestyle. We absolutely love that every minute of it. And we were very sad to come back, but we have gone back for 3 months at a time. That was the limit without a visa. and we've gone back for a couple of weeks. So it's not like you can't go back, but just that's.
And the visa situation is complex in Europe because of their unemployment problems. So you have to sign statements that you won't work and all sorts of things like that. So
Sure.
It's not necessary for U.S. people, but for other countries. So it's got to be across the board. We had it was a lot of work to get there for the year. And we took our dog too at the time. So
Wow.
but we're not going to desert him for a year. So he came with us. And that was a lot. And after all this work, nobody even looked at him because they had all this paperwork, I was going to show, and they could just go on. So I said, okay, so all right.
Oh, that was so sweet, though.
But that was another thing. We had to find a vet for emergency or something.
Yeah.
And that was Monsieur David. That was
Not Paris.
yeah. So there's so many things you have to learn to do differently. But I will say, when we lived that year in Paris, I learned more about America than living as an American.
yeah,
How we were viewed by the rest of the world and what they thought of us. So
we had quite a bit of
Yes.
culture shock when we returned too.
yeah, a very big culture shock when we returned, especially going to the grocery stores. It was like I really cried. I mean, just the quality of food is so different here. It's kind of a religion in France. So,
Yeah.
you don't buy a potato. You buy a potato from a certain region. They all have their names.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
it's quite different. So I think we've covered everything and more. It's such a treasure. It was so nice to meet you guys.
And it sounds like you love it there.
Oh yes, we absolutely do. And I think it's got to be your mindset too. Nothing's perfect in this world, but we've enjoyed it here, and we're happy where we are at this point in our lives. So factors into what your retirement's going to be like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I'd go back to Massachusetts to see the second coming of Christ. I mean, it's terrible.
You might go back. You might go back to see the Red Sox beat the Yankees or something like that.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Okay. All right. Well, we'll wrap up the session then. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you
we
so much.
so
Thank you.
appreciate this. We'll stay in touch. Okay.
Are we finished with the show?
We're still on.
We're still on.
Okay. All right.
So we'll be in touch, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
righty. Have
All right,
a
take care.
good rest of your day. Okay. All right.
We hope you enjoyed our show and will join us again.
And if you know of someone who relocated after retirement or before or during and wishes to share their story, please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our information will be in the show notes below. They include our email address, gg@retirethere.com. The 2 G's are for Gil and Jean. Our website is retirethere.com. And you can follow us on Twitter @retirethere_. Remember the underscore, or you'll get us mixed up with someone else.